Welcome to DK Champ. So this week's slate is pretty crazy. There's so many different ways to approach it. There's so many different stacks you can go with, and I am very fond of stacking players, and I'm going to show you some of the stacks that I like, and then after that I will go back and show you some of the individuals that I like. So starting it off, I think that Mahomes has got a pretty tough matchup going up against Baltimore, so I'm going to fade that game. But I do like Ben going against Oakland, and if you're going to play Ben, you need to go down to get the running back that will be starting and hopefully involved in the passing game, and that's Samuels. And then you would also go with Antonio Brown. So that's like a decent stack that I would like. It still leaves you quite a bit of money left over, and that is a positive. Next up, a lot of people are going to be playing Breeze and Winston, and I'm going to fade those two guys altogether. I feel like the weather is going to control that game, and I'm not very fond of picking guys that I know may struggle. I think there will be some short passes, and they may get a ton of passing yards after the catch, but I'm not willing to risk that when there's too many other good options up here. So the next one is Phillip Rivers, and I would stack him with Keenan Allen. And I'm not going to put anybody else in that one because he doesn't really dump it down to the running back very often. Next up is Cam. I wouldn't really play Cam. There's only one other player, and he's in my single player list that I would even consider playing with him, but he hasn't proven yet that he can throw that deep ball. He's just been throwing the shorter passes, and until his shoulder's back and 100%, I'm going to fade Cam. Winston, we just talked about. Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people are going to be on Rodgers this week, and I think he's an average pick, but I think there are better options out there. Andrew Luck is one that is probably one of the one that's going to be hidden. He had a terrible week last week. A lot of people were dependent on him last week, and he did not perform at all. So with him, I would be going to Hilton and Grant in this situation with these two. And then if you really want to get crazy, you could switch out one and put Ebron in there. And I would switch out Grant for Ebron, or you could go all three. So that's a stack. And the reason that we're going with this stack is if you look, the last time they played Houston, he went for 39.7 fantasy points, 464 yards, 4 touchdowns, 64 attempts, 40 completions, and a few running attempts as well. So people are off of him this week because of his performance last week. I'm going right back to him and hoping for a different outcome this time. So we'll keep rolling down the page. Winston, you could go with. If you're going to go with Winston, I would go with Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas at 41 would be my primary person. Let's see where he is. 41. Demaryius Thomas here, and then also Hopkins. So that's the stack that I like there. We'll keep going. Single player wise, if you're going to play just a quarterback, just to play a quarterback, and you're not really concerned about who they're throwing it to or trying to stack, I think you have a really good option here with Lamar Miller. He is as he's taken over as quarterback, you can see that his fantasy points are pretty high, pretty average, and with a ceiling that is, who knows what he could do. So he's getting around 20 completion or attempts and about 15 completions a game, and then he's also running the ball 15 or so times. And going up against Kansas City, they're going to have to depend on him. I think he's an excellent pick if you're going for a non-stack, just getting a good quarterback. He's a good option. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, which I've told y'all before, and I'm always going to pick a Prescott lineup, and I'm going to put Zeke in it, and I'm going to put Cooper in it, and I'm going to put the rest of the guys that I like to target in there. So that's always going to be something I do. You don't have to do that, but that's one that I always play. Another one that I like is just pretty cheap is going to be Eli, and then you would go Barkley and Odell. A lot of people are fading Barkley this week against Washington. I just look back at when Ezekiel Elliott went to Washington, and he did really, really well. This is the worst game on the slate for Barkley. He had 20, or next to worst. He only had 20 fantasy points, but I'm telling you, he's going to be a good pick. and a lot of people are going to fade him, so don't miss out on the chance to get him at a lower percentage. So last but not least, we're going to scroll on down past all of the backups, and you will see a backup that will be starting this week, and that'll be Sanchez. So Sanchez is $4,000. I do not project him to do anything crazy. I don't think he's going to score a ton of points. For $4,000, if he can get us 15, he is well worth the money. So he didn't play the full game last time and got 3 points, threw an interception. Yeah, I realize that. But there are going to be some lineups that I put him in, and I stack some studs with it. So, I'll go to some of the big-time running backs, and I'll play like these top few guys here and play one in my utility and then 2 running backs, and then try to survive with the rest and hope that the running backs are the ones that go off this week. And he won't be a guy that I'm going to stack with any Washington players, but there are some cheap plays that you can play at receiver. If you're going to go this route, you can play Reed at the tight end and then go with probably Crowder. Not Crowder. Washington. Who I can draw on a blank here. Yeah, it is Crowder. Sorry. Go with Crowder there, and you'd be in probably decent shape. If he's going to throw the ball, it's probably going to be to Reed and Crowder. So that's what I like there. So those are the stacks that I'm liking this week. Going to running backs, we'll go over some of the individual positions that I like. I really like McCaffrey against Cleveland. If I were going to put these guys in order, I'd say McCaffrey, Elliott, Kamara, Barkley, and then I would skip down. Aaron Jones has been pretty good, and they're going against Atlanta, so he could potentially do well here. I'm skipping over Chubb, White, Johnson, and I'm going to Mixon next. I like Mixon a lot. And then the rest of these guys are just average plays for me until you get down to Samuel, and he is at 37. Like we said with Pitt, he's going to be the starting guy here. Hoping he really gets involved in the passing game. He should. And those are the running backs that I'm leaning toward. So at receiver, there's a lot more. I'm not even going to talk about these big guys because I think everybody knows what they're capable of. But I'm going to go down and show you some of the value that is available here. So there is a ton of value here. And we'll start at 49 with Humphreys. This is starting to be a trend. You can see tons of targets and tons of receptions. It's his go-to guy, short route. And if it's going to be raining, it doesn't matter. I still think he's going to get the targets here, and I think this is a decent pick. This is not a long shot kind of guy. This is a short pickup. He's going to get a lot of targets and should be able to get in the end zone. That's my projection with Humphreys. So we'll go down. Some other guys that I'm liking. Cortland Sutton's the same way. He's just been getting a ton of targets and has proven to be a guy that can do it week after week, even though he didn't really do it in Pittsburgh. But Cortland Sutton should be a decent pick here. Keep rolling down. And the next one is Demaryius Thomas. I talked about already. I like him. Curtis Samuel. So like we said, with the arm of Cam Newton, I am a little bit nervous about him throwing that long ball, but he's been targeting Samuel a little bit more in these little slot routes, and I think that Samuel will get it done again. The weather could be nasty, but I think that Samuel can get it done. Another one I like is Callaway at 39, and then the rest of these guys are just kind of middle of the road here. They could go off at any night, but nobody that really sticks out as being a superstar for this week anyway. All right, so we'll go back and we'll look at tight ends. I think Kelsey's a really good pick if you can afford him at 67. Ertz is probably a good pick, but I won't be playing him because they are playing Dallas, and I try not to play the guys that are going against Dallas. I just can't sit here and watch the game and knowing that I've got guys that are playing them, so I don't like to do that. You may be able to do that, and that might be why I lose more than I win. Sometimes in fantasy because I don't want to play the guys against Dallas. So I don't think that Philly will be able to take Dallas. I think Dallas's defense is finally coming together, and I think that Dallas should be able to win that game pretty easily. Ebron, like him a lot here, and we'll have to keep an eye on the questionable tag there. Kittle as well, decent option. And then it gets kind of gray until you get to Gronk. For 48, that's probably the lowest Gronk has ever been. You can see here he was in the 7,000s not too long ago. He has not been very productive, but for 48, you could get some use out of him there. So keep him on the back burner if you have 48 left and you utility spot or tight end. He's a good option. Reed could be a good option here as well. David here for Cleveland. A lot of people will be targeting him this week, and a lot of people will be looking at break because of the short passing opportunities that should be there for that rain out. So that's what I'm going with there. We'll come back down to defenses. So Denver, I think, is a little overpriced going against San Francisco, even though San Francisco is not very good. The one that I'm liking a lot is the Chargers against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has really dropped down. They're not very good, and they could put up some big numbers here. Keeping it rolling. If you want some cheaper ones, I would go down, and let's see here. This is going to be a little bit counterproductive here because I just talked about how I'm going to play this game, but, well, let me find them. Where are they? The Giants for 24 going against Washington. We know that that they have a quarterback coming in that's not very talented, and I think that the Giants D could get some interceptions and things like that, so that could be a good option there at 25 if you're struggling to find somewhere. Another one is going to be New England at Miami. New England should be able to take care of Miami. I'm not sure about the touchdown piece, and I like the Dallas Cowboys. So those are the ones that I'm looking at as being good picks for this week. You come on down, and there's really nothing down here that I'm liking much more than those, and that's kind of what I'm leaning toward. And I know I said a lot, and if I'm gonna play some guys, I'm just going to give you guys that I'm probably going to have in the mass majority of my lineups, and that's going to be Samuel. These guys will be in probably 70% of my lineups, and I'm probably going to just do some lineup suggestions with these guys and just rotate other guys around. I'm really just liking the way this looks right now. Loving these matchups. And these three guys will be in the majority of my lineups. I might fade Samuels in a few because we just don't know what he's capable of doing, but I know that these three are going to be 100% guys that are going to be targeted a lot and should be able to get some good points for us. So that's what I'm going to start with. Those are the three I'm going to give you, and then figure out the rest from there. So it does leave you with 62 average to go. And when you do a defense, it should leave you around 7,000. So that should be more than enough to get who you want. And I hope that these help, and good luck to you this week. Hope you win a lot of money.